All right, so I'm creating this video for anybody just starting out in their sales career or anyone selling anything that just doesn't have any experience in sales. So it doesn't matter if this is your first sales gig or you're a retiree that's just starting a new business. This video is for you. And you might be thinking, why should I listen to this guy? What does he know about selling? Well, number one, I've been an entrepreneur for many, many years and started lots of businesses. Even back in the 20s, I created a board game that was sold in Walmart, Toys R Us, Scholar's Choice, even Costco. And I've been in sales management for 3 decades. So working with Fortune 500 companies to tech startups in industries like retail, wholesale, telecommunications, and even fintech. And over the last year and a half, I've started another business as an independent licensed mortgage agent, having to do it all over again. Where you have to build your brand, you have to build out your sales process and your foundation of all your strategies, how to find new leads and referral partners, how to close deals, and everything in between. So this is kind of what we're going to be talking about today. And we'll start with sales strategies because they're the backbone of any successful business. But as beginners, you might be feeling a little overwhelmed. Most don't even know where to start. Typically, you're asking questions like, how do we even find my first customers? And what are all the steps involved with getting the word out, booking my meetings, managing the transactions, closing the sale? And these are all common challenges and questions that most people are going to have today. And hopefully we're going to tackle some of these by the end of this video. And by the end, the goal is to have a roadmap to start your sales journey with confidence, okay? So we'll start out with, you really need to have a really good understanding of your product and service. Ask yourself that simple question. What problem am I solving? And, then we'll figure out, well, who has those problems? So here's a quick little exercise. Write down 3 features of your products or service, and then right next to it, write down a problem it solves for your customers, okay? Now let's move over to identifying our target market, AKA your personas. So who are they? This is pretty easy, but most people overcomplicate it. And even some companies are hiring marketing firms and paying them millions of dollars to build out their customer profiles. So we'll talk little bit more about that when we get into the persona section. But you want to just think about the problems that you're solving. The next thing we want to think about is how can we build relationships? And building relationships is really key because people will buy from people they like and trust. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a bit. The other thing we want to talk about is leveraging social media, right? And I'll take you through that in a bit because social media can help you get the word out fast. It's also a powerful tool to help you engage with your clients and prospects. And there's so many different platforms out there to help you find the right target audience. And the goal here on any of them is always going to be the same, right? And you want to be the go-to resource for the problems that your products or service solves. And then lastly, once you find a customer and sell them something, you need to understand, how did you do it? i.e., what were all the steps that helped you find your customer and then close the transaction? And this is called your sales process. And we're going to talk a little bit about that at the end. So let's talk about personas. So regardless of what business you're in, you all have customers that all have problems that you can solve for them. And let's call them personas. It's actually not that hard. Once you know what problem your product or service solves, then you just follow that up by asking yourself, who has that problem? And then what I like to do is I think about my friends or my family. Do any of those people have that problem? If they do, what are the things about them that I could write down? Here's an example. So I'm a licensed mortgage agent and I help people get their mortgages to buy their homes, okay? Well, if I looked at my friends, I could just ask, who has a home, right? Then I could ask, why did they buy or why did they sell their house, if that was the case? Is it because they have a big family or they need to be closer to their job or because they're retiring, okay? Next, I'm going to ask, hey, when you bought that home, how old were you if it was their first home? What kind of job did you have? And what was your income? What's the family income? So I'm just looking for some common characteristics that I could jot down on a piece of paper that I could use somewhere, like maybe in a list to try to find more people like them or build out some content for people like them. Then I want to know, and I'll ask them, what social platforms do you use? Why do you use them? This is going to help you find more people just like them. And if you know why they use the platform, well, then you can create content specifically for that platform. So for example, if my friend is using TikTok because he likes funny videos, then obviously I'm going to need to create funny videos for TikTok. So you just want to make sure that you're asking questions and you're using the platforms and building content for those platforms. Make sense? So here's an example of my personas. So I have first-time home buyers, I have upsizers, I have downsizers, I have investors, and I have referral partners. These are all people that have a problem that I can help, right? I can help them finance their home or business. And the fifth person there, I can help them with their clients. So now that you know who your people are, you can start to create lists for how to solve their specific problems and then pick the right social platform and the content that makes sense to post there. So in sales, there's two primary approaches that go into a sales process, right? So you have inbound as a strategy, you have outbound as a strategy, and inbound focuses on attracting customers through valuable content, online engagement, kind of acting like a magnet that's drawing people to your warm lead funnel, right? This method is all about building trust, fostering longer lasting relationships, engaging with customers who are searching for that problem or solution to what your product solves. However, it does require a lot more patience and it takes a lot longer to do. Whereas outbound, in contrast, is a way more direct approach. Like you've heard the term dialing for dollars. You've got a list of people, you pick up the phone and you start dialing, or you've got a list of people in your database and you're sending out emails, or you're sending text messages. In the end, you've got two approaches. I like to use both. I like to use an inbound approach in the beginning to warm up my potential customers, and then an outbound approach to start zeroing in on some meetings. So like I said, using a combination of inbound and outbound sales tactics works really, really well. And it's more of a balanced approach, right? You're going to warm them up first, and then you're going to directly ask them for a meeting, or you're going to call them, or you're going to send them an email with their permission. Okay. But once that's done, so whenever I start doing anything to get a sale, whether that's phone calls, emails, text messages, direct messages on Facebook, for example, I like to call them something. And that something I want to call them is activities. And as a new business owner or a sales professional, you're going to have lots of activities to do. So you're going to be using, if you're going to be using an outbound strategy, like I said, you're going to be picking up the phone and dialing, or you're going to be emailing people, or you're going to be sending text messages. And these are all sales activities. So now that you have a bit of your strategy put together and you're ready to get started, the first thing that you're going to want to do is pick a platform. I would say just start with one for your inbound activities and find a list of people that you're legally allowed to call. Now, don't just close your eyes and pick any social platform. Remember that list of things about our persona. You want to find the platform that's going to have more people on it, right? Based on the problems that you solve for. And so you want to ask yourself, where can you find a larger group of people that is a problem that you can solve for? And then pick that platform. And for outbound, your list of people that you're going to call is going to depend on, again, your local laws and who you can call and who you can't. But you want to start out, maybe friends, family, that sort of thing. But you need to start somewhere. So now that you're about to start a whole bunch of sales activities like calling, emailing, posting content, or joining networking groups, whatever, I want you to think of all of these things as activities, and each activity is an individual step in your sales process. And it's all one big assembly line that's working together to make you money. And then you're going to need a place to schedule all of this and also store all your lists and contacts and that stuff. And that's your CRM, your customer relationship management platform. So I know a bunch of you at this point are probably thinking, hey, I've already dealt with the CRM. I know what it's all about, but I still work with a lot of business owners and friends that have never used a CRM. So that's why I'm talking about it. So now that we've got our CRM all set up, what do we need to use our CRM for? Well, two things, number one, that I can think of. One is a leads inbox. So these are people that you're working with and you're engaged with that are interested in having a conversation with you, but they're not necessarily sold on your service yet. These are leads, right? You're still nurturing them. They might not be ready today. They might be ready somewhere down the road. So a good CRM is going to have a leads management software built into it so that you can manage your leads in one place. And then once you nurture that lead into becoming a client and they're ready to start working with you, then you can move them over to your sales pipeline. And a good sales pipeline is going to do a whole bunch of things for you. So number one, it's going to be easy to set up, and you can create different stages within your pipeline that match your sales process, right? So for example, if you have to have a discovery call before you know whether or not it's going to be a deal, well, that can be included in your leads. And then once they agree, hey, now they've got a problem I can solve. Well, now I may have to have a solution call with them or a deeper conversation. Then you can move them over to that first stage. Then there might be a number of different things that you're going to need to do before they're closed with that client. Maybe it's a presentation. Maybe it's, getting an application and that sort of thing. So you want to make sure that your CRM has a pipeline that's easy to customize for your process. The other thing it's good to have is automations built in. So I know the CRM that I use, every time I move somebody from one stage, if an email needs to go out, it's done automatically, right? Or a reminder is set up as I move them from one stage to the next to remind me to do something so I don't drop the ball. Right? So that's one of the big things that you want. The other thing is with some of the pipelines, if you've ever, wondered why someone has ghosted you or never called you back before because, you met with them and never heard anything. And that's because you could have waited too long in one stage. So they have, with the CRM I use, they have the ability to do something called deal routing. And that basically just tells me, hey, Dwayne, this thing's been sitting here for 2 days and you haven't had any activity on that with that client. So, there could be a problem. They could be talking to my competition, whatever it is. So it has a really good feature that does that. So again, you want to make sure that you've got a CRM that's going to do all that. And then, of course, if you want to learn from everything you just did in order to get that sale and understand what worked and what didn't so that you can start to do it all over again, but only doing the activities that help to get your leads and help you close your customers, then you're going to need to track all your activities and you need to have a way to tie them to your deals that closed. So for example, if you knew that 25% of your sales came from emails or 30% of your sales came from your cold calls or 40% came from your networking groups, et cetera, if you didn't track your activities, you would never know that. This is why, number one, having a very clear list of all your activities in your sales process is so important. Number two, tracking them in your CRM. And number three, creating reports that shows you whether you're doing well or not. Right? So very important. So if you're thinking about it, for example, if we're just talking about cold calls, right? If you knew that every time you made 100 calls, 20% of them actually booked a meeting with you, and then 2 of those people turn into a closed deal, which paid you money, well, it's almost like telling the future, right? You know what's going to happen. You just got to deliver on the activities, which is really cool. So that covers off kind of the reporting aspect of it. The next piece I want to talk about is once you get it all put together, then having a really good system and being able to scale that is important. And that's where technology comes into place. So we have ChatGPT, which everyone knows about. There's lots of different technology and software that'll help you automate a lot of the stuff that you do every day. That way you can speed up your process and get more time back as well. So this was just a basic video where we talked about some of the basics, foundations of sales process, of sales strategies, of the foundations that you need to build, some of the software that you're going to need, and some of the reporting that you need to have. So if you have more questions, I've got other videos that take a deeper dive into this stuff and even courses that take an even deeper dive into this stuff. So feel free to reach out at any time. Bye for now.